we have a new hero, and it's a bit of an interesting one. It is, of course, the Lifeweaver, who just dashed across in the back there. It is a new support. There we can see their heal flashing on screen. Based on what I'm seeing elsewhere, that's sort of the Petal Explosion yellow for healing colors. Based on what I'm seeing there, I would expect the values on that to be pretty low, but I would also expect it to be homing. There's another one of the dash that we've been paying attention to there. So here we go, heal, nothing too crazy. They're not going to give us the UI, so we can't see how much he needs to aim that, but they've said that this support isn't meant to rely on aim skills much, so I very much don't expect the heal will require much aiming. Should have some homingness to it, much like a Harmony Orb, so it won't stay on deck. Then we have this, which is going to be their Lifegrip. That's going to pull people to you, supposedly in order to somewhat minimize the trolling there. The ally has to accept it in some way, which does give you some questions, especially at lower elos or when people aren't expecting it. Are their reactions going to be too slow? And then would this Symmetra fall off the edge? Because if she accepts too late, she sort of comes up at an angle and then hits the wall and then can't get up, sort of thing. Just as an example. This I don't actually think is its primary use, pulling people back from off the edge. Sure, that's good. I think you're going to find it more useful when a dive team dives someone who's set at an off angle because they're correctly playing Overwatch. You know, one group of poke heroes here, one group of poke heroes here. Lifeweaver is maybe here. Maybe you have, say, an Ashe over here. And Genji dashes the Ashe, Tracer blinks in on the Ashe, or Winston jumps in on the Ashe, and oh, what do you know? Maybe it was Mercy Ashe, and Lifeweaver pulls away Ashe, and Mercy Guardian Angels away, and now these guys don't have cooldowns and are in the open to get shot. That's more how I expect it to get used, though yes, it will of course see some anti-Li Shang Tower boot potential, that sort of thing.
Lucky I was here, huh?
We move in here. Now we're going to see his Petal platform.
My platform is here.
That's a cute use of it against the enemy. So supposedly how this works is you use it on the enemy or on someone, and then anyone standing on it gets pushed up like this on this platform. Usually I would expect they'd be able to walk off of it. Orisa obviously can't do that when ulting. This is probably its single best use against an enemy in terms of, okay, Orisa can't move during her ult, lift her up. More often, I expect this is again going to be used for potentially poke teammates to help them get high ground, which is pretty cool, especially poke heroes with worse mobility like Cassidy, who would really appreciate shortcuts to high ground, or even high grounds that they normally couldn't potentially get to, as well as, oh, a brawl team is rushing you down, Reinhardt, Lucio, whatever, and what do you know, you throw a platform under your Cassidy, under your Hanzo, whatever, and that gives them more time because Reinhardt, for example, doesn't have the greatest poke to poke them down. And it looks like this platform does have a little bit of room to move around on, to do some strafing. I don't know if it'll be solid for shooting through from the bottom. I don't know if it's more of a like ethereal platform that doesn't actually block effects, but people can step on or not. That'll be a good question. Again, I'm seeing the poke synergy here. You see the, oh, Tracer comes in and then Tracer can't shoot you very well because Tracer does have fall-off damage, and the Hanzo that they were diving gets propelled up into the air, and that gives Hanzo a little more time. It's not a full escape, but it buys them some more time to soften up those shorter range heroes that we're trying to get on top of them. I think using it on your opponents isn't going to be all that common, to be honest. Yeah, it kind of looks like it might be solid. We'll see.
Hand port. Shall we do?
So there's a heal coming in, but I think what's more important is note that's his dash. He dashes. It was a pretty short distance, but it was enough to, maybe, oh, a Winston's trying to jump on you and you dash away and you don't take impact damage and you're at the edge of his Tesla range, whatever. If he wasn't going to land right on you, you're outside of his Tesla range. But what's more interesting to me is there's a second dash,
This to me.
and there's a third dash. So either this has 3+ charges, which is a lot of mobility because he gets some self-healing while this is going on, plus that movement, or it has an incredibly short cooldown, like old Guardian Angel levels of cooldown, or this was some custom game where for showing it off they lowered his cooldown, but that would seem weird. So I think the most likely is probably that this has multiple charges, hopefully not more than 3. That's going to make this hero very slippery. If they get a self-heal and movement, even though the movement isn't a huge distance, having that is basically going to mean that Brawl and Dive heroes can't get on top of this one. I mean, yes, a Tracer could in theory stick with them, but most mobility heroes do not have the mobility to stick with someone that has 3 charges of mobility. A Winston's jump is one and done. A Wrecking Ball, once they let go of their tether, their control is a little more limited. Diva, once they end their boosters, they're sort of stuck. Reaper, okay, you shadow stepped in, it's over. So that's interesting. That's really, again, going to sort of force us into a more poke place because a Reinhardt can't stay on top of a hero with 3 dashes like this. So you look at this and you go, you're going to need to have poke to potentially take out this hero. I really think this hero is showing a lot of things to drag us towards a poke meta. But we'll see.
Life unbridled.
And then the numbers will really matter on this tree of life here. These are healing pulses that we're seeing, and it's also a physical object. So, like, the enemies can't shoot through it, but it being a physical object almost certainly means it has a health pool. I'm curious what that health pool is. Is it going to be 3 times as much health as a Bob because it's so big? Is it going to be similar health to a Bob? Is it going to be similar health to a Sim Wall? And how much are these healing pulses that it's sending out here? I really expect the answer is going to be it's a pretty big deal. But go ahead and kite away from it because trees don't move, and sort of taking that ebb and flow. Okay, you pressure the enemies, they feel pressure, say they drop their ult, their tree of life there, and you sort of back off and maybe let them have ticks or let them have that choke, whatever, and then push back in when your cooldown cycle refreshes and their ult expires. This is, not got the mobility that we would expect with a lot of ults. Part of what makes Simwall so good is Simwall is infinitely long. It covers the whole map like that. Whereas something, Gate, even though it occupies a fixed space, increases everyone's speed, so it's hard to get away from. Something like this, it's healing. It's not like Blizzard where it slows them down and makes them stay here longer. I don't actually think this is going to be the most impactful ult in the world because it mostly is going to be a case of, okay, now we need to back off. Is it more useful after people have used cooldowns and are going to have a harder time getting out later in a fight? Absolutely, but that depends on how bursty its heals are. So that's really what we see here. I definitely look at this hero. I don't expect the number values to be incredibly high. I don't know on the Tree of Life they might be incredibly high. But on his primary heal, his primary damage, we did see some damage there. I should point that out. We haven't talked about that ability, actually, when he's shooting at the Pharah here. So there's his primary fire. I have no idea what degree of homing, if any, that has. That could be Moira level with some auto-aim assist, because they did say, hey, they don't want this to be a heavy aim skill hero. But there's enough other abilities here that it might just be, no, you still have to duel properly with your abilities, but not really because you have 3 charges or a very short cooldown on an escape ability. So I don't expect his way to win duels to actually be to defeat his opponent. I expect he's going to be running away a lot from those sorts of things, and it's going to be very easy for him to run away. But yeah, I look at this, I almost certainly see this hero encouraging a poke meta. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you think I'm wildly wrong and he's actually the best dive support. Dive in, drop a Tree of Life, whatever. Or no, it's going to help Brawl because they'll take the elevator platform up and they'll get on top of people. Let me know what you think is going to happen with this hero, as well as your thoughts on this hero in general. If you're enjoying the content, drop a like, consider subscribing for more thought-provoking Overwatch 2 content, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks, Temporal out.